This is Chris Carlson, and welcome to the Boulder Banking Podcast. My guest is Russell Cropanzano, Professor of Organizational Behavior at the Leeds School of Business at the University of Colorado. GSBC and CU Boulder's Leeds School of Business have joined forces to equip GSBC alumni with strategies and best practices to grow as community bank leaders. The Certificate in Executive Leadership is achieved by attending GSBC's alumni-focused Community Bankers Summit, hosted concurrent to the annual school session in July. In this episode, Russell and I talk about this program, and we discuss the importance of leadership in today's challenging times. Russell, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Chris. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Russell, I'm really excited about our conversation that we're going to have today, but before we kind of jump into that, can you give us a brief background of Russell Cropanzano?
Oh, sure, I'm happy to. I'm a professor of organizational behavior at the Leeds School of Business at the University of Colorado. I've been a professor for 35 years. I think most relevant to this conversation, I have an extensive background in executive education and also MBA education. At my previous job, I was the faculty director of the executive MBA program, and I expanded that and did a lot of executive ed. I set up a number of programs for my college there. And then I came here, and I'm trying to do the same thing. So find some executive ed opportunities that benefit organizations, and also that give our faculty a chance to get out and interact with people.
Well, Russell, let me ask you this. What was the genesis of the Executive Leadership Certificate that the Graduate School of Banking at Colorado put together?
Sure. I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you how fortunate we at Leeds feel to be part of it. So the Graduate School of Banking at Colorado has been working with the University of Colorado literally for decades. I think it's about 70 years or so. At the Leeds Business School, our faculty, it's been involved off and on, often teaching banking courses because we have a real strong finance group. A few years ago, they approached us about doing leadership education and joining their certificate there. And so we jumped at the opportunity. We have a real strong faculty, in that area. Colorado Graduate School of Banking still does a lot of their classes in the Wolf Law School, which is a wonderful facility. And we also host them here at the Leeds School as well. So it's been a great partnership for us.
Well, how does being affiliated with CU Boulder Leeds School of Business add to the credibility of the actual certificate?
That's a good question because it's a strong certificate already, even before we joined. But let me answer that in a big picture way, and then I'll get more specific. So as you know, the whole financial sector, both community banking and then more generally, is seeing a lot of changes. And this is pretty typical, increasing diversity in our country, technological changes, and so on. So we're seeing a lot of it. What our program does is it focuses on leadership in times of change and also in times of crisis. And so what tends to happen when there's rapid change in an industry is the insiders experience it as a series of problems, one after another. And so what we're hoping to do in our program is to get folks to step back, look at the changes in their industry, and look at the opportunities to build strong cultures, to recruit and retain good people, to focus on integrity and ethics, and so on. So I think that's what we do. We have research-based solutions which help people lead in changing times.
So what are the three main curriculum goals of the program?
I guess if I had to narrow it down to three, I would say leadership in dynamic environments. I would say trying to build engaged and ethical cultures. And then I would say from a curriculum point of view, putting knowledge into practice. So we try to have a set of classroom modules where people talk and they share ideas. And then we have something more experiential at the end where people actually try to put those things, to apply those things they've learned to problems that they're facing in their organizations. So those would be our three goals.
My guess is there's all kinds of leadership programs out there, but what makes this different than possibly other leadership programs offered by the banking industry?
That's a good question. Now, I don't know the banking industry, all the executive ed in the banking industry per se, though I know a little bit about it because I've done some research on it. We actually, here at Leeds, when we were first approached by the Graduate School of Banking, we did some research on different executive ed programs, both in the banking industry and the Front Range and so on. And we tried to focus on what would be a value added from working with us at Leeds. I would say one of the things that we take seriously is we focus on leadership, not just management techniques. So if you look at a lot of programs, and this is not a criticism, by the way, these are important things to know, but they focus on things like giving feedback, managing meetings, setting performance goals, things like that, more frontline management functions. We step back, we focus on things like leading change, managing retention, leading in a crisis, building a culture of engagement, those kinds of things. So we focus more on the leadership function, a little bit less on management. A second thing that I think we bring at Leeds is all of our education, actually both in the classroom and executive education, is research based. And we're a very, very strong research institution, both at the university level and also at the business school. And so a lot of the things we're going to be saying are cutting edge and they're derived from research. And so they often give a different perspective than you would have in most programs. And the last one, honestly, and this isn't every program, Chris, but some of the ones we looked at when we did our review, is the programs were very generic. You got the impression people would punch them out and they wouldn't focus enough on the particular industry, in this case, banking. And so we've worked hard to address that in our curriculum.
Well, what's critical for bank leaders to know about leadership in an ever-changing world?
That's a real good question. There's a couple of different ways to answer that, but I'm going to answer it in a way that might surprise you, maybe by looking at the contrast. When you see something like financial services, which is an industry that's undergone a lot of change, such as consolidation, competition with online banking, and so on, when industries undergo those changes, again, they experience them as challenges or even crises. And so organizations often tend to sort of lock everything down. They tend to become a little bit more top down. They tend to focus a little bit more on operating procedures, which are important, right? I don't want to overstate what I'm going to say next. But what can happen when they're dealing with these changes is their internal culture and the way they do business is changes for the worse. And so what we want to help people to do in our program is to step back, provide a strategic vision, learn how to profit and grow from crises and from even conflict within a unit. In other words, you can use those as an impetus for positive change, and then to empower people and to build a culture where people want to come to work, want to keep working for you. Good people are attracted to your company and can work together in teams, and we can all learn from each other. And so I think those are the things that we bring that are very unique.
Well, what feedback have you received from past participants in the program?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've run the program, I guess, a couple of times now, and our feedback has been very, very positive. I'm going to joke a little bit and say maybe a little too positive because people are very kind. But what we're trying to do is we present our curriculum and we have good people teaching it. And then we look at the feedback and we make adjustments based on what all the participants tell us. They've been telling us good things, but we always encourage them. Tell us what's wrong. Tell us what we can do better. Tell us how we can change. And even though the feedback is positive, we try to retool a little bit every year. And that keeps us relevant and fresh and then adapts to the needs of our participants.
Well, speaking of that, what does the program look like in the future?
That's a good question. So I guess the best way to think of that, Chris, is short term, long term. So in the short term, we hope to keep offering it and keep getting feedback and keep making adjustments. In that sense, the actual shape of the content both the way each module is taught, but also the whole outline and schedule. It'll ultimately be shaped by the participants and what they say their needs are, because they know better than we do. We have to, when you design a program like this, primarily what you do is listen. You figure out who the experts are and you listen to everything they have to say and you try to learn from them. Then long term, what we would like to do at Leeds is we'd like to grow it. We can envision parallel curricula where there's one set of modules, but a whole different set with different topics and with more students in them. So our hope is to keep improving and to use that as an impetus to grow. I guess the best way to say it is we're hoping to do what we teach. So do this right and people will come and support it and we can keep building.
So, Russell, I'm going to take a step back and just ask you a question about leadership in general.
Go ahead.
And this is my opinion, and I would love your perspective from somebody who kind of sits at the cusp of everything that's going on. I have a feeling that this country, people in this country, are starving for good leaders, and we don't have enough of them, or enough of them are not presenting themselves. Care to comment on that? Agree or disagree with me on that?
I 100% agree with you, Chris. I would actually call it a crisis of leadership in our country. And I think part of the problem is a lot of people who are in leadership positions don't lead. They've lost that internal compass, that sense of integrity and that sense of vision. And I think that's why sometimes it feels like we're floundering.
Do you find that with so much social media and people being attacked for their views, that is maybe causing some leaders to be quiet when it maybe in the past they were out in front of an issue?
Yeah. If you look, let me step back if you don't mind, Chris. So I'm a professor and I work a lot with young people, and that's mostly what I do, right? And I love that opportunity. And really, in the last, I would say 10 years, maybe a bit more, I've noticed a dramatic change in young people. So lots more depression, lots more anxiety, students needing special accommodations to take tests, for example, and suicides are increasing. We had one a couple of years ago right here at our college. These are good kids, right? These are good kids, and we're a good school. So these are kids who come from good high schools and have been successful academically. I started to read about it, and it's happening literally all over the country and even all over the world. We're seeing these kinds of trends. Now, I don't blame it all on social media, but if I have to pick one thing, it would be social media. There's a lot of messaging in social media that is hyper critical, and so people withdraw from it. There's a lot of false comparisons. People talk about their lives in a very idealized way that makes other people feel bad about themselves. And so I think it's hurting our young people. But you asked about leadership, and I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of good people just don't want the attention. They don't want to go on social media, and they don't want to put themselves and their families up to that kind of ridicule. So they just withdraw from public life. It's a sanity thing, right? They just want to keep themselves sane.
Well, and I think that's why this program is so important,
Mm-hmm.
because what they learn from you and your peers is how to deal with these types of things. And look, the world has changed a
Right.
lot than when you and I were growing up.
Oh,
But
yeah.
nonetheless, as we said, we need leaders more than ever, and we
Mhm.
certainly need leadership. That we need the best leadership in the banking industry. So having a program like this, where they can learn from the very best, I think is such a positive thing for our industry.
I agree. I think as a society, we're going to deal with this problem, but it's going to take a lot of education. It's going to take some trial and error until we get it right. And we just have to go forward together.
Well, Russell, I know a lot of our listeners are going to probably maybe have some questions regarding the program, and you're certainly a resource. And Josie
Mhm.
Bunch at the Graduate School of Banking, Colorado is a resource. But if they wanted to reach out to you based upon anything you said today, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, I'd be happy to talk to anyone. And so people are welcome to contact me. And the easiest way would probably be by email. I'm at the University of Colorado, Leeds School of Business, so they can find me online. But I'll give my email address. It's Russell, that's with two S's and two L's, Russell.Cropanzano. I better spell that. C-R-O-P as in Paul, A-N-Z-A-N-O, Russell.Cropanzano at colorado.edu.
Perfect. Well, Russell, I know you have a lot going on. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us today.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.